be good until a few minutes before I come over here. Just personal. Yeah, you got that. How many for the surgical procedure? That looks good.
Yeah. 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this workshop to meeting, August 15th, 2/12. This is basically informal. We're not doing a pledge. We're not doing a prayer. We're just going right into the meeting. And if anybody doesn't know, when you have a budget workshop, we really don't need a quorum to do the workshop. We can have just a couple of board members here because it's informal. The first order discussion is the budget. And I'll immediately go over to our board of director. Director of law. Sorry, Jody.
It's okay. As I mentioned, I just got the rest of the numbers pulled yesterday for all 8 departments. And now it's just a process of going through and formulating expenses and profit. And getting that ready for 2013. And I would like to have the opportunity to get a preliminary budget and a documentation, then for you guys to go probably early September to review that, and then we can start making real adjustments.
How will?
By the 15th.
That's about as early as you can get. I mean, you know.
Okay.
So we just table for the rest of the night. 15th we'll discuss the budget.
We'll have the preliminaries. All right, let's move on to discussion of the computer systems. What has come to our attention here on the board is that what was originally proposed to the previous board, and we picked it up, is a top system. We've come to the conclusion, through a lot of agony, that the top system will not really perform the way we need it to perform to do the computations and everything we need to keep our budget up to date, our entries up to date, all the way down the line. And briefly, I'll call on Ms. Dela Cruz over here to give you an example of where we are and where we're going. What it entails is we're looking at another unit coming in here, a gentleman who is going to be able to take and move us over to the same type of system that we had before. Very similar, not exactly the same, but it'll give us all of the areas that we need there to conduct our day-to-day business. And that is really where the problem lies. And it'll also bring us into the 25th century, whatever you want to call it. Going from a 16-bit system to a 32-bit system makes a big difference in how you're doing business. So without saying anything more, I'll let Camille take over here for a minute or two.
Would you like me to just go through the items that I found were
That would be
advantageous to TOPS?
right, so that everybody can understand,
okay.
yes.
Okay. The main challenges lie with the number of memberships and the way the memberships are organized in our system. And what we're finding is multiple manual input would be absolutely necessary, which poses a problem because as you're inputting each individual account or each individual person, payments are rolling in. So if in a perfect world we were starting over and we could run both systems simultaneously. It would still take 6 months to do that, but that's one problem, but also how the program behaves and organizes all of those account numbers is, even if we could manually input it and put 5 people involved just to input everything, then how's it going to behave? Well, what we found out was that at this point, when a member walks, there's no over-the-counter payment system in TOPS. It's designed to take no cash or credit, or cash or check payments face-to-face. So members coming into the office to pay their assessments would have to, if they wanted to know what their balance due was, that perhaps they didn't know, then that individual would need to add each amount up and present them with that, or have access to things that they're not cleared with for security, like building a statement and accounts receivable. So to give them the total amount due, manually adding up their balances, and then once they paid, we could not produce a receipt there and then and there. We'd have to say, would you like a receipt mailed to you? I don't know that would fly very well, and that's a lot of cash handling that doesn't seem to have the necessary trail. There's no process in TOPS for looking up delinquent members. So pool insecurity would have to be able to get into accounts receivable to generate what their amounts were. And then they'd also have to go and look up every amount, find out if there's a plus or a negative, and then discern from there whether or not they are delinquent. None of these things that I've mentioned so far were able to be evaluated because they didn't have, TOPS did not ask, nor did they, or they offered the way our memberships behave. Residential owners that have more than one membership because they have more than one lot. Residential owners who have more than one residence. Memberships that need to have flags for ballots. Memberships that have an option but also need a flag for a ballot. FRM needs to be flagged for ballots. Trade accounts, you get the point. So one owner, one lot would have been ideal, but we don't have that system. The impound fund, we would not be able to review the impound fund at any given time. It would have to be done at one time during the year, and that would skew our accounts. We would not know how much was in impound fund to make future plans, and the other items would have more money than they should. There's no purchase order or invoicing system, which we do have currently in the system that we have, and it can be updated. You can't register grandkids. You cannot do decals. The direct deposit for credit cards is handled outside, and it's an additional fee. That's applicable because I put together the total cost of ownership, and when you put that there, it really drives it up. Trade accounts is something that we have labeled for multiple things, like electricity charges from community council. So basically, there's a lot of characteristics that we can't handle. We also can't handle the account history doesn't transfer at all. There's no option for that. They don't do that. They start when you say start. So no matter what we do, we'd have to have the old system running, and you can't have a new system and run the 16-bit. Our new systems are 64-bit encryption, so it can't produce something for you on the screen. Also, because of the strange nature of our system, we would need a trainer on site. She said 8 hours at our expense. That's airfare included. And that is TOPS, and the sad thing, part of the sad thing that we won't be able to have the capability that our system has. So at long last, we found someone who was savvy enough to look at it. He came from the same platform that we've been using all along, but they update constantly. So we will never be without those people. Even if this programmer comes in and gives us a program and his work here is done, we'll have access to him. But if that is not the case, we'll have access to the company called Sunbelt. So, and we've had them since the beginning. I have samples, and if you guys just want to look at those, this is just a visual for you to show what the new individual's name is David Gabler is offering. He'll be here Saturday, but I know that you wanted to see visuals. These are really good looking reports from, and they're much more comprehensive than the ones you're used to getting out of the DOS system. which by the way can only be printed to certain computers, which is holding you hostage there. As far as TOPS versus the David Gabler solution, total cost of ownership, there's a difference of about $7,000. But that's not the real concern. The real concern is what it will cost annually as we move forward, which is a total of $3,500 per year that we would need to pay just to use 10 computers to use TOPS. Where Sunbelt, we would pay $1,400 going forward, and that includes support. So I thought that was really big. When in prior discussions, we talked about ownership of the program itself, TOPS, but we had neglected the number that we were paying each month for the user licenses, the concurrent user licenses, which is 10, and that adds up quite a bit. So, and another concern of ours was that it would be the same as the gentleman that we had before. He would offer us, there he's here, he's offering us a solution, and then he's leaving, or not accessible, or ill, or traveling the country. Well, kind of recently really discovered that that's not going to be the case. He's going to take the platform that we have, all the functionality, and improve it by leaps and bounds, just because it's going to have the higher security that we really, really need. The digital signature of each operation that occurs. Purchasing will actually communicate with receivables, or the two departments will communicate properly. Yeah, and that right now it doesn't happen that way. And the system keeps having bugs because it's just, he called it spaghetti. Spaghetti, let's see, is there anything else I need to, so his solution is based on enhancing over a period of time, which he said would be about 8 to 12 months. I think in lieu of having a full-time IT person, it's really good to have him here, because as much as I wanted TOPS to work, they seem to have grown too fast, too much too fast, and they're not really as accessible, and they're very costly when it comes to a question on the phone.
All right. Let me add one comment here that everybody should understand. The TOPS system is a package system that comes off the shelf, so to speak, okay? It works for a lot of this type of community, you know, not all HMO communities. It does not work all that way. This particular system that he is offering us is very similar to what we have, which is what we call a custom system that is built around our needs. A top system can't even compete there. You can't even go there. And that's why we decided TOPS will never work for us, because it just can't do what we're asking to do. The other thing you got to remember, we got about 30 years of information in our old computers out there. We have to haul out a certain parcel of it back, well, probably 7 years to cover the feds, you know, and all of that issue. So, yes, that means this gentleman has to go in and extrapolate all that information and bring it across into the new system. So, having said all of that, there is also the other side that yes, we may be able to get money back from TOPS. We have an out in the contract. We're not sure exactly how far we can go with it, but we'll find out how far we can go with it. We should be able to recoup pretty much of what we put into it. Not all of it, but pretty much. And looking at this system that we have here, which I don't mind telling you what he's talking about, is 26,000. And the other system, which you looked at, it comes up over 30,000. And still, yeah, and still had a fee on top of it, you know, down the other end of it. And required us to have all these user licenses, which we don't have to have at this point. So that's why we're looking at this change. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's
Jody?
sufficient.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add?
Other than the fact that I sat in one of the briefings for the board that I sat on, elected to go with Tops, and we didn't have this gentleman here. And Tops give us a good presentation, and it's kind of like, you know, it looked good, and the presentation that they presented, it looked good, but when they got down here and tried to apply it to our system and the different entities that we have in our community as far as our membership goes and the way we pay our bills and stuff like this, they could not make the system work for us. That's all I gotta add.
Do you have it? Okay. We'll go on to the next subject, discussion of the employee handbook. I think everybody's seen a copy of this somewhere along the line. But this handbook has a lot of things in it that have expired or should be changed or updated to bring it into the whatever century we're living in right now. And some of them are, for example, we eliminated the health insurance, and that's a baddie that we're thinking about. But the other things that are in here is like employees working for the Los Morris restaurant, you know, they're still in here. And there's a bunch of other things that are still in here. So I think it's time that we've brought this up along with everything else we're trying to do to the level of where we are today, including all of this and that we can't do. One of the things I noticed in this, and I didn't notice it before, is we have a little preface in the front of it that says, anytime we want to, this thing can be changed, revised, altered, amended, revoked, without any notice to employer or anybody. We can throw the thing out the window and start all over again. But I don't want to do that. I want to take and rework this so that it benefits all the employees that we have here at Ford, everybody, and put it in such a way that everybody understands what's in here and it benefits everybody. That's all it's all about. You got a question?
Well, I wanted to know if we were allowed to ask questions. Since it's a workshop, can we ask questions?
Yeah, I'll take one or two questions.
Well, this manual you're talking about, it won't have the job descriptions in it.
Yes, well, that's one of the things I'd like to improve on it, to have a job description, not every job description, but a general job description, say like for maintenance, for the office, general, you know, not every little, because we could get a book about this thing. But I'd like to identify, for example, how we do in today's world, sick days, vacation days, all those things. So they're in a better understanding than what's in here. There's an understanding in here, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it meets the standards that we use today. You know, I think it's just been brought along over the years. You know. Is there any other question? Ooh, two hands.
How do you propose to change it? I mean, are y'all gonna get together and change it? Are you gonna ask the employee input? Are you gonna have another committee?
One thing, employees' information asking doesn't go in here. This is an employer's handbook for employees. So it would be the working board to suggest things. It'd be up to Jody to suggest things. It'd be up to Janelle to suggest things, because they're all part and parcel of the whole group. So that's where we gather the information. And we'd look at each piece individually. Did you have a question? No? Your question's answered. Okay. At this time, we're going to take and close this discussion to go into, we suspend this, to go into a closed discussion. It's now 6:19. We'll return when we come from this particular
What
discussion.
what are y'all gonna talk about? Is it personnel, is it contracts, what is it?
It's an enforcement action. Private.
Okay.
So is everything will be.
Enforcement action,
Enforcement.
private.
We're not supposed to know.
That's good.
No, I think so.
What could be
My question is,